welcome to the SMIRK podcast. So I'm sitting down with the absolute legend that is Charles Myssy and his beautiful doggo Dre. We're just off the back of hosting an event this weekend, a men's mental health event, and I think it'd just be a nice place to start there with the podcast, just because that's been kind of our point of contact. And I'd love to start it off by just giving you a huge thank you for coming in.
Thanks, bro.
Coming in and sharing your wisdom with a good bunch of lads.
That was honestly, I had a great time at the workshop, bro. It was first time I'd presented that. I've presented at a school where there was a few hundred school kids, but it was like a meditation thing. But really presented my work and my message. That's the first time I presented to in person to that many people. So that was a cool wow, fuck yeah, you fucking growing, Charles, your journey, the universe just keep fucking going. So it was just a cool moment of experiencing that, and I thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to do that, and just really kind of step into that and be like, that's it, this is what I'm doing. I'm a speaker, I'm a presenter, I'm going to be talking in front of groups of people, this is what I want to do, and it's just really reinforced that and confirmed that for me.
It's very surprising that was your first event of that magnitude, because within the first 5 minutes I was like, man, this fella's in his natural habitat up here. You killed it. You had us all, any bit of, I think, anxiety that was in the room was killed within the first 5 minutes of you making jokes and relaxing everyone.
That's it. I was really saying the jokes to relax myself as well. It just had a carryover effect into everyone. It was we're all connected. It's I had a bit of that anxiety. It's okay, it's my fucking pretty big presentation, a bunch of guys over here, you know what I mean? And then just I found the best thing I could do is just be myself. And then by me being myself there, I feel more relaxed. And by me being myself, people, I think people have somewhat of a measure of when someone's being more of themselves, they feel more relaxed too.
Authenticity is very infectious.
Fucking oath it is. It's not like you're going to some Bible reading ceremony. It's you must all repent, you have all sinned, and you're there going, fuck, this is gonna be a shit fucking 2 hours. It's just here's someone that's just being himself, and that's comforting because it allows me to be myself now. Don't feel like I'm going to be judged by this person. So I think that's one of the most important things when it comes to my line of work. Therapy, shadow work, going deeper with people, guiding them through this type of journey. The number one thing is rapport and making people feel comfortable, making people feel seen and heard. And that's what allows people to just open up. And I just put the same thing into practice in a large group setting. It's how I would be in a one-on-one setting where I'm there, really listening, being myself at the same time. It's the same thing when I'm in that group setting. And I felt like it worked quite well.
No, it was brilliant, mate. It was brilliant to see that many lads open up and be that honest, that vulnerable, that real about the things that were going on in their life. Was pretty fucking amazing to see. So it was, and I kind of took it for granted at the time because in my head I was trying to run around and fucking make sure everything was good and stuff.
Timing's good. We're gonna finish up by the time the people come, and time's up. This place that you've registered for the 2 hours or whatever it was. Literally
all that bullshit. But having a couple of days to reminisce on it and everything, and talk to the guys that were there. It's awesome. It's just awesome to see the shift. I suppose in the mentality of men that it's now okay to do this shit, and it's now not even that it's okay to do this shit, but now that it's we're here that we can do it. You know what I mean?
Fucking earth, yeah. I think it's gonna be really great because I think when people are struggling with something, it's very easy to feel like you're alone throughout it. And it's like, I'm the only one going through this. No one's going to accept it. No one's going to understand it. Like, I'm going to be judged for it. It's undesirable what I'm going through right now. And then what happens then is, if we don't feel connected with others through our struggling, it just like creates like this experience where we feel lonely throughout it. And that's what's fucking super stressful about it. Like, I use this analogy a bit with my clients. It's like, the intention isn't with this work to create the outcome that you don't have any struggle in your life. That's not what the intention is behind it. Because if we were to, like, and I use the analogy of like, if we had, like, let's say a family back in a fucking tribe, in the middle of the wild, there's fucking saber-toothed tigers there and fucking big woolly mammoths there, right? It's like, what was soothing for them throughout their struggles when, okay, fuck, we haven't got food, or the hunt wasn't successful today, or there's a rival tribe that's encroaching on our lands, or your father just got killed by a saber-toothed tiger. Like, all these traumatic experiences, like, what we did throughout that time is come together. And if there was a child during that time who was stressed throughout that time, they would receive love from the other people in the tribe so that they could regulate those emotions and bring themselves back into a state of safety. So it's like no matter what is happening on the outside, if we had that connection with others, and in order to do that, we first got to be able to like connect with ourselves and open up and be vulnerable to that. But when we have that connection to others, it's like, fuck, like suddenly what I'm struggling with and isn't so heavy and dense. It feels a bit lighter now. And that's what I think is going to be great for men now, or just everyone in general, because, women are struggling with this, but I think men particularly have built up just a slightly thicker wall of a thicker, hardened external wall to like, I'm okay, I think them starting to see more men opening up is going to allow them to feel more safe to be like, fuck, I'm not alone. Like, there's people out there going through the same thing as me. I don't feel like there's anything like wrong with me now. And I don't feel like I'm, a shit person or I'm a fucking failure and all this. I'm not so ashamed of it anymore. Like, it's actually okay. It's not like logically okay because everyone says it's okay. It's okay because I'm actually seeing it happening in front of me. I'm seeing men opening up. Like, that's the fucking evidence right there for me to feel like it's actually okay. Because like a lot of these like mental health awareness campaigns, and they're great, don't get me wrong, but like if you're hearing like a slogan like straight off the bat, like, it's okay to not be okay, like that's great, but I believe it doesn't really sink in until you're there, like witnessing people going through this process like firsthand. You're seeing it, and that's when it becomes okay, because that's when it's now normal in society, and that's when people feel safe to start doing it themselves.
And it was to have 90 lads. I don't think anyone felt too alone or too. I don't think anyone felt like, fuck, I'm on my own here with the stuff the lads shared and everything. It was powerful stuff. It was amazing. It was amazing to see. Why do you think, you're bringing the analogy back to the old days? Do you think we've lost that sense of community? Do you think that's why, we struggle so much to deal with these emotions and stuff?
I think there's different reasons why we struggle to deal with these emotions.
It's probably a very loaded question there.
It is, and I'm happy to be a bit more specific with like the community component. I definitely think that I don't think we've lost our sense of community, but I think a lot of the connections that we had that worked for such a long period of time, a lot of those connections have been disconnected. It's like, firstly, the family unit, like that's where it all begins. So now, even if you had both parents there, because there's a lot of people that may have experienced, one parent leaving and they had one parental figure growing up. But even if you did have both parents there, it doesn't imply that the connection is there, that deeper connection between you, because you may have had both parents, but one of them was emotionally unavailable and the other one was a workaholic and barely home and spending time with you. Or they could have been physically present there, but not present with you. So they could be physically around you, and it's like, yeah, my parents were around, but not actually like spending like time being present with you, where you really feel like you're being seen and heard. So there's that component too. And I think just if we were to like go a bit further out within like, you know, society at that point, there's a lot of like people within our community that we would be connected to, like the fucking mailman and, you know, the local person at the grocery store, you know, like, you know, there's Bill who fucking owns the fish shop, and like the local fisherman, and, you know, there's like the local priest. Like within our communities, we had all these people where we had these close connections to, where we could be open with and talk and, you know, share what we're going through and support each other. And I think that, along with the family unit, has started to fade away I think over the last few decades. I think due to the increase in technology, it has had like, you know, you just think about it, like, you know, people are spending more time on technology now, and technology now, you know, it has its pros, but it has its cons, and I don't think it really gives us that deep human connection that we truly need.
Very hard to get that through technology.
It's like sex, like it's like comparing.
Close your ears, Dre.
He's seen all sorts. Okay, it's like comparing watching porn and masturbating to actually having genuine sexual contact with a physical person.
Yeah.
Like, it's uncomparable. It's the pornography is still being used like to try and give you like that of which what like genuine sexual contact does, but it doesn't really meet that need. I don't think it ever will. The same thing with social media, like it's not going to fill the same cup that genuine physical connections will give us. And I think as a result of that, people are more lonely.
Yeah, 100%.
And loneliness is where, like, loneliness implies that, you know, you're not connected. And if you're not connected, that brings up deep-rooted beliefs that, okay, well, maybe I'm not worthy to be connected. Maybe I'm not good enough to be connected. If I'm not connected and if I'm lonely, I'm not safe. Because our tribe was our support network that made us feel safe and kept us safe from the fucking elements, from, you know, making sure we had food, from, you know, other rival tribes, from wild animals. Like, it kept us safe from that. And if we're lonely, we don't have that support network, even if it's actually there, even if we do have friends and family there. But if you perceive yourself to be lonely, because there's a difference between like loneliness and being alone. Yeah. Being alone is like, okay, sitting at the top of a mountain, I'm by myself, but I feel really connected. You can still feel connected when you're alone, but loneliness, you can have fucking thousands of people around you, but you still feel lonely, and that's stressful. Because if you're not worthy, you're not good enough, and if you're lonely and you don't have that support network, what's going to happen? Your nervous system's going to put you in a fight or flight response, fight, flight, or freeze response, and that creates chronic stress, and then that links to so many, like, that links to us becoming like more suspicious of human interactions. We become a bit more closed off to it as a way to protect us, because it's like, who are these other fucking tribal people here? I don't know if I can trust them. They might have, like, there may be fucking headhunters and they'll cut me up and put my head on a stake and then put it up in the jungle. Like, we just don't know, because stuff like that happened throughout our evolution.
Yeah, but it's just when you're in that, you know, that fight, flight, or freeze situation, your brain's telling you there's threats there, even if there isn't a threat. So all these people that are lovely, genuine people, they're automatically a threat. It's, you know, just because your brain is telling you something's not right here, and you have to that's personally how my brain works.
Okay,
is, you know, you almost find the threat within the room. that isn't actually there, just because your your brain, everything is fired into that fight or flight state.
100%. And so it's like, if we are to reconnect people together, right? Because now, like, there's men's mental health groups, drumming circles, you've got, swimming groups and running groups. Like, there are things there. They may not be as omnipresent as what they used to be, but they're still there. And it's like, are they not as present there because there's not much of a demand for it? Or are they not present there because the organizers that do them just started breaking away from it? And, we need more people to organize these things and put out these initiatives. And it's a bit of both, right? People aren't going to go to these things if they're still closed off. So how we can get people to become more open to joining in these types of communities and is forming that connection within themselves. And to do that, you've got to be able to open up to other people, but it's got to, just like, when you first start going to the gym, it's like, let's start nice and light, okay, work these muscles. Same thing with something like that. You might reach out to one person, start being vulnerable there. Then you might introduce yourself in a community where there's no judgment. Everyone's on the same journey as you. You feel safe, like the communities that we've set up. And then from there, people then can start to feel more safe to open up around them. And through that process, this is what I do through the shadow work process, is to go deeper into the subconscious mind to become aware of the underlying dynamics that are creating this type of programming. Let's say for you, for example, where you're focused on the threats and things like that. Where does that come from? Because for as long as that's there, doesn't matter how many people come up to you with open arms and give you a hug, even when you're hugging them, there's still a part of you there going, I don't feel comfortable doing this. Okay, so where does that come from? And then that's when you do that deep work there and you heal those wounds, you reframe those beliefs, you accept and forgive and go through this whole process, purge the emotions. That's when you'll be perceiving reality around you a lot differently and you'll be more open to it. And that's exactly what happened with me.
So much more clarity just in your daily life and your daily interactions and everything.
Much more clarity.
Yeah. We've jumped in the deep end here.
We have, and it tends to happen when you got two deep fellas like ourselves conversing.
But and there's a lot of stuff there I'd love to bring up again later on. But I'd love to rewind the clock up and hear about your story a bit about where you're. I suppose, how you've got to where you are now with. Going in, showing up to these rooms of lads and sharing your information and really, it's life-changing stuff you're doing. So how'd you get here?
How did I get here? Well, my mum and dad had sex and came out of a vagina, traveled through this cosmic portal, and entered into this dimension and came out as this physical being. But
beard and all.
Yeah, straight away. Had a beard straight away. This all started. It's kind of challenging to put a finger down on because I get asked that question a lot.
Yeah.
How did this all start for you?
It's your typical podcast question, isn't it?
Typical podcast question. And I think it's something that started as soon as I've experienced this life. But through life, I forgot about it for a period of time. And then I went through a journey of reconnecting to my essence, who I really am. So right now, through my own journey, I've learned to accept who I am, but I was someone before I learnt who I wasn't, right? So as I started, you're growing up, you start taking into the peer culture and the societal conditioning and, different, cultural stuff and, whatever society's telling you are, whatever you got to look like and act like and what you got to do, the natural course of life. All this conditioning is just getting bombarded to us when we're young. And it's standard because as we're growing up, we're formulating our map of the world. And to do that, to perceive our map of the world, we've got to compile all these beliefs and a lot of that gets passed down to us. So a lot of this stuff, this conditioning that I was soaking up. It really hit me when I was early 20s that it was like, this just isn't fucking working and serving me anymore. But I didn't get the realization like that. I just felt shit. Like I got sick of feeling like that. So throughout my teenage years, I was very lonely and isolated a lot. I used to spend like 16 hours in my room sometimes playing video games, addicted to like video games, just nonstop, baggy eyes, eating fucking Cocoa Pops, like just fucking hunchback, always neck and back pain, just like someone would come in and like, you know, my mom or someone, she'll open the door and be like, food's ready, Charles. And I'd be like, shut the fuck up, I'm playing games. Like it was just like very interesting experience there. I wasn't going outside, wasn't socializing enough. I wasn't very lonely. Addicted to pornography as well. That's something else that I watching 2-3 times a day, and so that was another thing that I started getting into. And then
just a fucking crazy time of your life. The hormones get the better of you.
Yeah,
I'd see a fucking cloud like look like boobs. I'd be fucking I gotta go.
Exactly. And then as I started integrating into socializing more, I found myself in the environment that I was in. It was quite a rough suburb in a way. Like there was, it was all about what group you were in.
Yeah.
And there's this group here and that group there, and went through this little gangster phase where you start carrying knives, and then who are the baddest cunts, like who's doing the baddest shit, like who's got the biggest group, who's got the strongest boys, who's got the boys that are gonna be like they'll fucking go at it. Like it started developing into this mentality, and so that was like a lot of my teenage years, and then it was all quite I used the word toxic for myself at that time, and just thought I'd never fucking amount to anything, and I was a loser. And, we were living in housing commission, single mum, 4 kids, barely had any money. We were just like, thought I'd never amount to anything. I'm just like, fuck, I'm going to just be a loser my whole life. Failed at school. Like everything was just like I wasn't good at anything at that time. The only thing I had somewhat of a passion towards was art, like drawing. So that was kind of like my creative outlet at that time. But essentially, then I got into my first relationship, and I kind of jumped a bit there. But anyway, started getting into boxing and training because I was getting into street fights and seeing people getting stabbed and getting bottled on my head and getting robbed at like machete point, like just stuff like that. And I'm like, fuck, bro, this is fuck. Like I gotta learn how to fight or some shit, man, because these streets are fucking getting rough.
Yeah.
And then after a pretty severe fight, me and my mate got jumped by a group of 7 guys, and we're getting our heads stomped on the ground, bruised up. Fuck, it's just like, they were bigger guys. I just remember feeling really insecure about myself, going, fuck, man, I need to learn how to fight and just defend myself because I'm the man of the house. I got 3 sisters and my mom. Like, who's going to fucking protect them because my dad isn't there? And
yeah.
So I started learning boxing, and boxing was the first thing that I got into where I was like, okay, like I'm learning this thing called discipline. I'm showing up every day, 2 hours, fucking punching the boxing bag. I'm lifting weights. My body's changing. Like, started noticing myself progressing at something, and I was like, this feels fucking good. I feel good about myself. And then as I was going through that journey, I started noticing like I wasn't on the streets anymore, and I was like, okay, I don't have anything to protect myself from because I'm not in that environment anymore, hanging around just on the street, people smoking ciggies and like, look how fucking hard we are. Like, I just wasn't in that environment anymore. And then that got me into like training more, and I started really getting into like improving myself, and that was like the first time where I started getting more confident. Studied PT, and then PT became like my way of like, just at the time I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do? I heard there was like some guy who was a PT at my gym who was making like $3,000 a week, and I was like, what the fuck? That's so much money. Like, I was like, oh my God. And so then I decided to be a PT because I had no fucking money, and I was like, I'm kind of fit and strong, and I like helping people because I used to go up to like my mates in the gym and like teach them technique, and so I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of feel like I've got a sense of purpose over here. So I started getting into PT, and then met my first girlfriend. First girlfriend fucking had no idea what I was doing with communication, and lots of old stuff started coming up that I had no idea how to process or understand. It was all just like projecting on others, blaming other people. It's everybody's fault but me. And yeah, so we broke up, and then I experienced a heavy amount of emotional pain that I didn't know how to process at the time. So I decided to get my mind off it, to travel somewhere. So I decided to go to South America. I was like, I just need to fucking book a trip somewhere. I made some money, PT. I've got some money there. Let's fucking travel. Started traveling, and then started noticing that a lot of these conditional beliefs I had that tend to occur when, a lot of people travel. That's why they say traveling is so life-changing. Started to dissipate and fade away. And I was like, okay, fuck. My body's not just changing now, but so's my fucking mind. So that was cool. I liked that. It felt good, like transforming my perspective on things. I'd come back home to the same area where it was a rough suburb and go like, this is all bullshit.
Why do you think that was? Why do you think traveling had that effect on you? Was it just getting out of the environment that was, had become toxic for you?
Yeah, I think you're getting out of the environment, but it was also like I really liked like history and culture and nature, and like, I liked putting myself in very thrilling environments, and it just got me out of that environment, because I think, when you're in the same environment, it's a lot easier to repeat the same patterns. It becomes very familiar. So when I started traveling to these other places, I was actively seeking to travel to places that were like thrilling. Some places that would like, ooh, get you a bit of an adrenaline rush. And later on, I realized it's because I just seek the familiarity of how my nervous system likes to be stressed due to like childhood.
It's almost your comfortable place.
Comfortable place, yeah. Which I've learned to accept and just like embrace a part of me that, I like to do stressful stuff sometimes because it serves me sometimes.
You're a wild man.
Round. Gets me taking risks and shit like that. So, I was traveling, I was going to the Amazon and going to favelas, walking to go to a party in a favela, just like more adventurous stuff. I started getting into, doing more of that adventurous stuff, and I started going, fuck, I love this shit.
Is this all solo?
That one I was traveling with a mate, but I'd started doing some solo trips after that. So after South America, I was traveling around Africa, Middle East, like Central Asia, like Himalayas, Nepal, Pakistan, like just, I've traveled around Europe, but I quickly realized that, fuck, like I'm kind of not, I want to go somewhere that's more dangerous.
Yeah, more off the beaten track.
Off the beaten track. And the more I started traveling, the more I started doing more off the beaten track type shit.
Proper adventures.
Very big adventures. Like one trip I did a 3-week hike through the mountains of Lebanon and like camping along the way, and it was an overland hike, and I did half of it solo, got lost like a few times, friends getting sick, like, it's proper like survival type shit. We've got to find water, like filter the water, like all that sort of stuff. So one trip we did a solo drive in Namibia. We got like me and my mate hired a 4-wheel drive, and we drove through the desert of Namibia in Africa. There's fucking lions walking past our tent, climbed up Mount Kilimanjaro. Like, it's just, went on the border of Afghanistan. I was in Pakistan, and we went to the border of Afghanistan to go to this village where we needed like guys with guns with us to protect us, because it's a place that has gotten attacked by Taliban numerous times.
Wow. I
went to a place in Pakistan where they supposedly found Osama bin Laden, like that building where they went in, and I went to that suburb. Like, I just found like, it was like, fuck, this is sick. Like, we're driving on some of the world's most dangerous roads. Like, seeing cars that a few days before had fallen down and like crashed, and like 5 people died. Like, it's just like really started immersing myself in these types of environments, and it was just like, fuck, bro, everything I know to be true is bullshit. Like, it was just a lot of those sort of realizations. And going into slums, like going to see tribes. Like you're going to go see people that never seen a phone in their life.
Is that... we live such fucking sheltered lives. Some people wouldn't stray from fucking going from their house to the bus to the office. Like that, giving yourself that perspective must have been, that must be amazing.
Oh, that's what skyrocketed my journey. It just a lot of beliefs that I was holding on to due to like stuff that I didn't even know I had. It's just kind of you just get it, and then you think it's who you are. A lot of that started getting challenged, and I was like, "Fuck me, Dad! I'm actually before I traveled, I thought I was like a poor and like that's it. We're in housing commission. We're low socioeconomic status. Like I started traveling these places. I came back and I'm like, fuck. There's so much abundance everywhere.
There's water coming out of the tap.
There's fucking water coming out of the tap. Look how many opportunities I have. I can make something of myself.
Yeah.
And it was beliefs like that really started driving me forward to like, come on, you can fucking build up your business. Like you can make more money. Like you can build a fucking empire here. Look at what's around you. Like look at this fucking opportunity that you have. Like started getting like beliefs like that earlier in like, my mid-20s, and this really started getting me into this like warrior mode. Like, and I was like, fuck, like just all these limitations that I had, like it just started fading away. So yeah, bro, that's kind of how it all started. And then I started getting into psychedelics, and that was a very interesting experience. So tried, a few LSD experiences, psilocybin mushroom experiences, DMT. Like,
was this while you were traveling or back in Australia?
I had done it a few times traveling. Me and a friend of mine got on LSD when we were in the mountains of Nepal. This was like during a 2-week hike. We had like 1 day off to like rest. We decided to go to this glacier lake that was like 4,005 meters high above sea level.
Oh, rest it. Let's just go on a fucking mad trip, huh?
And we got on acid and started swimming in this lake, and yeah, it was hilarious. But so, and I think this is a very, as I say this, I'm not like promoting anyone do it or anything like that. This is, but what I've experienced with it is, it offered me the opportunity in that moment to really shift my perspective on things. And that's not always a good thing, because sometimes you can shift your perspective to something that doesn't serve you. Just because it creates change and transformation doesn't mean that you're going to change and transform into some perspective or personality that's going to serve you better.
Do you think that's because you were kind of already in that mindset and kind of on that journey, that taking the drugs kind of feed off that, or not taking the psychedelics feed off that?
I think so.
Kind of exacerbate the state that you're kind of feeling within yourself already.
I think so, and that's why I think like the environment you're in, the people you're with, and your intention beforehand is so important when it comes to that stuff. Like you really got to respect it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people enter into it where they're at some fucking festival, or they're at a house party and they've mixed it with other drugs. Like I think when you're doing it in those type of settings, it's
bit more dangerous.
I think so, yeah, because it leaves you very vulnerable. You're really opening up, like when you're taking this stuff, and there's gonna be parts of you that are coming out that you may not feel safe to show around certain people. Yeah. So I am very grateful that my experiences have all been with like a very close group of people.
You're up on the fucking glacier like, man, that sheep is fucking looking at me, man.
Yeah. That yak.
Did you see that Yeti run over the hill?
Yeah. Really, I wasn't doing it with people the whole time. I was just doing it with fucking yaks and Yetis and shit. Thought they were people. I've always had like a good supportive group of people that I've done it with, and I've always respected it and always known that my intention for doing it isn't just to have fun and see colors. Like, it's like, let's see what I can learn about myself. So I've always had that intention. So got into that. And then at that point in time, business is fucking great. I'm enlightened. I'm meditating. I'm like, I'm a fucking enlightened being, present all the time. I'm the hippie of my workplace. Everyone's like, but then COVID hit. And then what happened? Business went boom. There goes gym shut down. Like uncertainty in the world, all this stuff started coming out that I didn't know was there. I was having issues with like certain things in my family. Like, there was a lot of stuff coming up for me. I was like, fuck, what is this? Like, I didn't know this was there.
You had it all figured out at that stage.
I had it all figured out.
Yeah.
I've fucking traveled to this many countries. I saw fucking gorillas in Africa. Like, I've meditated for an hour straight. Like, just all this shit that you just create this, like, spiritual persona. Mr. Good Guy persona. And at that time, because I was, like, honest with myself at that time to be like, okay, there's more to learn and cool. I want to learn more. So that's when I decided to get into shadow work.
Right.
So that was like 2.5 years ago or something like that. And that's when it was like, okay, now everything kind of makes more sense.
Yeah.
That allowed me to understand the journey that I had just been through when I was traveling, when I was training, when I was like this. It just, things started to make sense a lot more deeper on a deeper level, which was cool. And it was a lot easier to come to those realizations too. It's like, fuck, okay, yeah, now I understand why, I was traveling there and why I was attracted to that type of partner and why I was in so much pain when she broke up with me, because it opened up an old wound from my childhood. And like, it all just started to make more sense. There wasn't so much guesswork. There was lots of curiosity, and obviously, you got to kind of be curious to come to these realizations. But my past and how it's led me to where I am now has made a lot more sense. Now I understand why I was seeking, why I was addicted to porn, because at the time when I first watched it, when I was 11 years old, I went to my older cousin's house and he put on some pornography. I'm there, a lonely little fucking kid who's so depressed and lonely because my father had left my family. And in that moment when I was watching this porn, straight away, huge rush of fucking dopamine going off in my fucking brain, going, what is this? And in that moment, I wasn't thinking about all the stressful shit that was going on in my life. So what happened then? My brain created this fucking pathway that that I would consciously want to go to my cousin's house just to watch porn, because we didn't have internet. And then all of a sudden, whenever I'd go to places where they had internet, I'd be a little shifty cunt and go
man,
let's fucking put the porn on so I can be present for a moment and not think about all the depressing shit in my life.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it was happening at the time, but that's what was driving me to do it, the deeper underlying dynamic. And that porn addiction eventuated into sex workers addiction. I started seeing sex workers every week, every 2 weeks or whatever, because that's what happens with addictions. You need a higher dosage.
Yeah.
After a while, watching a video doesn't do it for you. So you need to do something else. So
once you run out of the categories, you're like...
Exactly. You've gone through everything. Like, you've gone through
A
all...
to Z.
You've gone through all the ones that you're like, what the fuck am I watching, bro? Like, once you get to that point, it's like, oh, fuck, who am I?
Yeah.
So, it was just getting that understanding of that really helped me, give me a lot more acceptance and compassion for all those parts of myself throughout my life. And, bro, and now I'm just fucking so passionate about guiding other people through it. So now I'm a shadow work facilitator. And, I've set up my own program online where we've got like a community of people that are all going through their journey together, which is fucking awesome. And so that's kind of how I got here.
That's a fucking good story, my man. You've, that's all that adventure side and all that. I love that stuff. I'm definitely, the next couple of years, I want to do a bit of that stuff myself.
It's so important. And you look at a lot of different cultural stories and metaphorical legends and myths like this, especially for men. I believe like it's imperative that we all go through some type of experience where it's like, I'm going on a pilgrimage, I'm going on a quest, like I'm going somewhere arduous to face the fucking dragon in the castle. Like, I think as men, like, we need to go through something like that to really
find yourself, kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
What are the Aborigines call it? The walkabout, isn't it? You're off on your...
There you go.
Off on your walkabout.
That's right. And some African tribes, you got to go out there and kill a lion.
Yeah.
You just got to do it.
Your journey into manhood and all that.
If you don't kill a lion, you're not a man.
Fucking hell. I don't know what the equivalent would be in Ireland. Jesus Christ. Go out and fucking wrestle a sheep for a while. We'd be all right. The test in Ireland isn't fucking too high.
Wrestle a sheep. Pin it down.
Ah, that's awesome, mate. So, how and your journey into the shadow work? Did you meet someone that brought you through it?
Yeah, I actually did. I met someone. I think during that time, people really, because I was living in Bondi at that time, people started to really connect with each other.
Can I just 1 second?
Go
there.
ahead.
Shadow work.
Yep.
That's a term that I just came familiar with in the last while as well. Could you, for anyone listening, and they're like, "What the fuck is shadow work?" Could you just explain that a little bit?
I can. So a shadow is a term used to describe the unconscious parts of us, all of which is out of the scope of our conscious awareness. It's mostly compiled with the undesirable parts of us, that jealous part of us, that envious part of us, that conquering, dominant part of us, like all these things, or, the insecure part of us, the part of us who's overly anxious and scared of, the fearing of failure part of us, like the part of us who puts lots of pressure and expectations and very harsh and cold and judgmental part of us, the racist part of us, all of these parts of us that were essentially out of the scope of our conscious awareness and does not fit the criteria of what our personified version of us should be.
Yeah.
Our ego is like, no, this is who I am. I'm a fucking meditation expert and I am all peace and love and tranquility. Someone's like, oh, I'm a fucking successful businessman and I am all eloquently spoken and I shall do things all professional. And essentially it's all the parts of us that, and there's some good parts of us there, because I believe that a lot of these parts of us that we have been taught to reject and suppress can be of great use to us. It helps us to have that part of us who's going to step in and be like, fuck no. You're not going to cross my boundary, or, to be able to defend ourselves or speak up and when the time comes.
It's just that education of using those emotions and all that stuff in a way to serve you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. It's like, the competitive part of us.
Yeah.
Some people are like, no, you shouldn't compare yourselves to other people. Like, we're going to do it. Okay. And if you shame yourself for doing it, you're only suppressing it, and it's going to remain dormant and festering deep out of the scope of your conscious awareness. And then it's going to come out on the surface of your life anyway. And it's probably going to come out fucking huge in a way that makes you feel really insecure and stressed out about it, because you don't know how to manage it. You don't know how to use it and connect with it and communicate with it, or be like, okay, thank you very much for doing what you've done for me so far, but now I am finished with the competitive comparison part and I am ready to embody my let's chill the fuck out, I've finished work part of me. You know what I mean? Yeah. But if it's not, like, first, you got to be able to acknowledge that it's there, right? A lot of people struggle to do that because we've been taught that all these parts of us are bad.
Yeah.
So shadow work is going into your subconscious mind consciously through the form of communication and visualization exercises, to go in there and integrate these parts of you so that you can accept them, transform them, change them in order to create a psyche, an overall psyche, personality, personal reality, perspective of reality that serves you better. So that's essentially what shadow work is, and how we do that, how we identify these parts of us is, will they display themselves always on the surface of our lives in certain ways? So right now, if I get someone who's like, let's say, had a client who's struggling with finding a boyfriend, right? And she's just like, I can't meet anyone. Like, I meet these guys and we have a connection with them, but then after that, they don't call me back. And it's like, every time that would happen, it would reinforce the belief in her mind that she's not good enough. She's doing something wrong.
Yeah. And
if she's doing something wrong, well, then there's something wrong with her. And if there's something wrong with her, then that means that she's not right. And then that means she's lonely and disconnected. And
how can you be yourself in front of someone if that's fucking playing in the background?
Exactly. And that we linked, it was so it's like she's doing something wrong. That was like the underlying belief there. Where did that come from? Well, because when she was young, she did something essentially that would have put her family in danger. and she didn't tell them about it. She was like 8 years old at the time. She answered a phone call, like a public phone, back in the fucking 90s and 80s, it's public phones, you just answer them, and someone was on the other line. And someone started asking her these strange questions, and she answered them back and gave them information of that. And she felt scared. She's like, oh my God, now I'm going to get in trouble for that. I'd done something wrong. She didn't tell anyone, she didn't tell her family about it, so she hid it and suppressed it. So this internal dialogue in her mind that's like, you did something wrong, you did something wrong, you did something wrong, you did something wrong, has now manifested its way out in all these other areas of her life in the context of fucking dating.
Yeah.
And so in order for her to heal that, she had to go back there, feel the emotions that's associated with it, the emotional charge that's driving these subconscious beliefs, release that, and reframe the perspective of that story. No, it's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. You just, you just doing the best that you knew how at that time. You're okay. You're safe. Really reinforcing those beliefs there. But first, she had to acknowledge that it was her making herself feel like there's something wrong with her based on how she was perceiving herself in those relationships. She had to acknowledge that, because before we do that, we're just going to project it out onto others. There's no good guys in Sydney. Guys, men are shit. And that's where you hear it. A lot of people projecting out their internal perspective of how they perceive themselves out in the external environment. Create these generalizations, distorting and delete reality to fit their deep-rooted subconscious narrative that they already have within themselves.
Yeah.
So that's an example there of shadow work and how, it's basically what it is.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. It is, because when you hear stuff like inner child and shadow, I think a lot of people can be number one, very skeptical of it. They're like, what is this? What is this bullshit?
Yeah.
But especially the way you've done it with us with our workshop, and it's step by step, all practical stuff of it's all laid out where you start, where you finish. It's it'd be very hard to be skeptical after doing that.
Yeah, and that's I think.
And a lot of the lads have come to me after, I've had conversations with lads saying that they were so skeptical about it, but the impact it's had on them has been massive.
That's it, my bro. And I think that's because mental health, the whole thing behind mental health, it's still growing and it's still evolving. And I think it's been too rigid.
Yeah.
It's been too this is what you have to do if you're struggling with anxiety or any type of mental health issues. And
the 5 steps.
Here's what you got to do. Here's your options. You go and speak to these type of people. And that doesn't resonate with everyone. A lot of people don't feel safe when they're in those types of environments. They don't relate to these types of people. And that's one of the most important things, that you feel connected with the person that is guiding you through your journey.
And that's the unfortunate thing about it, is it's like every job. Do you know what I mean? There's people in every job, every walk of life, that are not good at their job. But when you're in such a vulnerable state and you go to these people, it just can fucking leave you a bit more lost than it is before you fucking even went in the door.
Definitely, bro. And that's why I think, this is my belief, it doesn't matter how many qualifications you have, doesn't matter how many fucking degrees you got,
100%.
Doesn't matter how many white lab coats you wear or how well you logically articulate yourself when it comes to the reports that you make or the present.
It helps, but
the most important thing is, how well can you connect with someone? How well can someone hold space for you? How well can someone listen to you?
Yeah.
How well can someone ask you questions that are going to be challenging enough for you to be able to go deeper within yourself? A lot of people that have come to me, they've gone through those types of experiences where they've been in more clinical settings. And of course, it's all effective, Some people are going to resonate more with that. And it depends on the person that you get as well. It depends on the type of therapist that you get.
By no means knocking that.
Me neither.
That side of, I've been helped massively by counselors and stuff like that.
There you go. So I think it's sometimes people, they might want to try something a bit more alternative.
Yeah.
Something a bit different.
Yeah.
And that for some people makes them feel safe. Look at this room that you're in right now. You're not going to go to a lot of clinical psychology sessions where it looks like this, but some people feel more comfortable in something like this.
Yeah, let's get the bongos out, man. I feel like
Some people feel comfortable when they got a dog there that just lays with them and they can talk and just pat the dog while they're going deeper within themselves.
it's probably one of the most relaxing podcasts I've done, without a doubt, man. You're definitely creating a good space.
That's what it's all about, man. And another important thing as well, which I'm creating with my online program, is the community of people to go through the journey with together, just like you guys are doing.
Yeah.
So you don't feel alone. You feel like, oh my God, like there's other people out there too, and you have an extra layer of support as well. Because it's something I tell like the clients that see me on a one-on-one level, like this is going to be great for you, but you got to be able to integrate yourself with a supportive network around you who are going to be able to give you that understanding and listen to you and not judge you and just be there to hold space for you as well. It's very important. Like, otherwise, we can do this work together, but if you're going straight out into the same friendship groups that are going to be manipulating you and trying to get you to go out and do drugs again, or, not just understanding what you're going through in your journey, it's going to still feel very lonely.
Yeah.
It's still going to be very challenging, and that may form a dependency on your therapist.
Yeah.
Because you're the only person that understands me. That's not what the outcome of this experience is supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to gain that connection and understanding from other people around you too.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
So that's a very important thing, and that's why I actually started that program, so people can connect with each other.
Yeah. No, brilliant. It's great because that kind of little story you shared there of that girl when she's 8 years old, for just to kind of put my own story on that and bring it back to the importance of the shadow work and stuff. I had a great childhood, like really good, fucking supportive family, everything. There was all the boxes all the boxes were ticked. But like that, little things happened, little fucking embarrassing moments here and there, so by the time I left primary school, the fucking narrative going on behind the scenes was already a play. I landed into secondary school, which is kind of like high school over here. And that was same shit. That narrative was playing, and then by the time you fucking leave through that, it's well cemented. You go into college, it's still going again, and you're like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, I can't think of anything I can't think of, one thing that's triggered this off. But it's crazy how these little things just snowball and snowball and snowball. And like everything you do then does compound that narrative that started when you were fucking 7 years old,
Exactly.
8 years old. It's crazy.
It is. And what I think is important about that, so you just said that, you had a great childhood, and it's like, all the boxes were ticked, you had the support around you, but there was still like this narrative there that was like, what kind of outcome was it creating for you at that time?
What do you mean?
By the time, you're getting into school and secondary school and college, like what was going on in your internal world?
I was putting a huge amount of pressure on myself I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be liked.
Right.
All that kind of stuff. So the amount of like social anxiety and stuff I used to get was just fucking, it used to, just completely get the better of me.
I hear. So it's because I've worked with people that have come to me as well, and they say that to me, like, I had a good childhood.
Yeah.
Now, what that can do when we perceive our childhood to have had been good is it can actually prevent us from being curious as to where this anxiety that's being displayed itself in social setting comes from. Because it's like, but I had a good childhood. So we attach having a good childhood to our identity, and that closes us off to like being open and curious enough to acknowledge like, hey, no, actually, like, yeah, it was good, and I'm not taking that away from myself, but there was experiences that I did go through that were emotionally painful, that did create these subconscious beliefs that, as they're running now, aren't serving me, that are causing me to place high amounts of pressure on myself.
Yeah. But especially as you're like, oh man, why that fucking shit back? That doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's like, what's the point? It's in the past.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened to me when I was a kid doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, that was only stupid shit. I was
little stupid shit on the schoolyard, and that, I think, comes down to, like, as a collective, the lack of knowledge and education that we have around how important those early developmental years actually are. 90% of your brain is formed up until the age of 7. Like all these neurons are bursting up and you're soaking in all this information. Like to essentially reject that that has anything to do with how you are now as an adult is only closing, for anyone who does this, it's only closing you off to better understand yourself and to be able to transform your realities, to really go in there and acknowledge like, no, actually, that's how I felt about it back then. Like now through the lens of my adult logical perspective, oh yeah, it's all stupid shit on the schoolyard, ha ha ha, whatever. But back then it wasn't.
No, back then it was fucking, your world was crumbling around you.
That's
'cause
right.
You were embarrassed in school, and that, you know, that's your fucking safe place when you're a 7-year-old.
That's your safe place. So then, you know, if your world's crumbling down, you're going to adapt to that and you're going to form these adaptations, which may be running worst case scenarios when you're in these social situations.
It's crazy because I talked to a friend of mine back home, does some work like this, and he had helped me out before, you know, talking about that inner child work. And it's mad that how, you know, our beliefs and values, we carry them with us, you know, from when we're 7. But our world is so small then. So our world when you're 7 is like, you know, it's home and it's school. But as you get older and you know, your world expands and you're carrying these beliefs and values with you, it's almost like the stress and the anxiety that it caused when you were 7 starts to expand with it as you're going out into the world. So as your world gets bigger and bigger, you know, these little problems are just expanding with you. So it's so important to go back and
Definitely, because it's like what you learned at home, what you learned at school, and the adaptations that you formed to be able to cope with what was going on around you, to be able to be liked and accepted, because it's stressful if you're not. And it's a basic human need to be seen, heard, and loved, and like all these. The way that you adapted to meet your needs back at that time, in those two situations, home and school, expands out there because all of a sudden you've got your different social groups, you got your work, you've got your relationship, you've got your how you are when you're walking down the street. You've got all of a sudden now you're in a new social environment with new people. So what are you going to do? You're going to go back to your core foundational programming of how to navigate that situation, how to adapt to that. So we're always just going to revert back to what's most known, and what's most known for us is what happened to us during childhood. Is like during our childhood, that's what's most familiar, that's what's most known, because that's when our brain was evolving and taking in all these beliefs and values from the external environment. We're just going to revert back to that. And, you know, time doesn't really exist. Like we just create this programming and it just repeats in cycles. So it's like, yeah, cool, but my childhood was only like fucking these 10, 12 years or whatever. And then after that, it's 30 years. I'm in my 40s now. Like your fucking subconscious mind doesn't know the difference. Like it just fucking repeats things. It doesn't know like, oh no, but I've been in this different position than my childhood for more of my life. It just keeps repeating what's most known from childhood and repeats it in these patterns.
It's like that. It repeated it when you were on the schoolyard. Now it repeats it when you're in the big world, you're in your office.
That's right.
You're in the big world, you're in the pub. It's the same track going again.
Same track going again. And that's why people repeat the same thing, or, certain people struggling in relationships. It's like they're having the same relationship over and over and over again with different people.
Yeah.
Like if it's a toxic relationship where I keep attracting the same type of people, it's because you've still got the same internal drivers occurring, and the lack of awareness to be able to spot the red flags within this type of person that you are attracted to, because it gives you some sense of familiarity of something that happened within your childhood. For example, with me, my dad wasn't, he just wasn't there. So, but I desperately wanted love from him. So then later on in adult life, I almost became attracted towards women who didn't give me much attention. And I would be like, oh, fuck it, I got to work harder for their love. So then I would become attracted to the women that weren't even like emotionally available for me.
Playing hard to get,
but like, you know, overly. And I would see that as like, no, I like a challenge, and I don't like it when it's too easy. Why? Because when it's too easy, it's too boring.
Yeah.
And when it's too boring, my stress fucking hormones that I'm addicted to aren't being released in my body.
Yeah. Because you grew up being used to that kind of environment.
That's right. And even though it's with my dad and, you know, I was a little kid, how the fuck could that possibly translate it into some sexy South American woman when I'm in my fucking 20s? Like, what the fuck does that even... But it's the same, like, attachment styles that we have because our parents are the model that we create. And I realized, too, that they had that with each other as well. Because I never saw them being close and vulnerable and open with each other. It was always like, you know, them pushing each other away. And that became my most known representation of what a relationship looks like. And I didn't know that when I was looking for partners later on in life. Yeah. But that's what my subconscious knew. And it was out of the scope of my awareness. And that's what was in my shadow. Yeah. So doing the shadow work allowed me to connect those dots and be like, okay, fuck, I understand why. So now, like, if there's ever a moment where, like, I feel that happening within a relationship. There was a recent relationship I was in, you know, last year, where she would pull away and threaten to not be together anymore with me. Like, oh, maybe we shouldn't be together anymore, and she'd pull away and become like unavailable due to me triggering her in some way, shape, or form. Like, there was no communication there. And my old self would have gotten attracted to that. When she did that, I'd be like, no, I'll be better. Like, I'll fucking meet your needs and all this stuff, and completely become oblivious to what was actually going on there, which is translated into an anxious avoidant attachment style. So it's like, when I saw those red flags, I'm like, okay, my old self would have gotten fucking his dick hard about this, but now this...
Challenge accepted, bitch. You don't want me, watch this.
Now I was just like, nah, like, this isn't what I want. So I had to be clear, and I had to show up, and I had to be like, set the boundary and you know, just show up for myself and do that work. Like, you know, because having the awareness is one thing, but being able to practically do it, like, that's when you got to feel those fucking uncomfortable emotions and speak, and you're stuttering a bit, and you're like, like, you got to just allow yourself to go through that process and speak and be honest with yourself, which is challenging. And it is going to be challenging. It is going to be hard. It's not this fucking easy thing where it's just like you find yourself, and then all of a sudden you walk down the street and you're fucking, all the birds are tweeting around you and butterflies are flying past you and sexy girls are coming up to you with these anxious avoidant attachment styles, and you're saying, no, I have boundaries. Like, it takes work, it takes practice, and it's a never-ending thing.
Yeah. And once you get through one storm, there's fucking another one. There's another one brewing.
For every level requires another devil to be faced.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it's not your own storm, you'll get fucking dragged into someone else's. So, but it's just having all this awareness and kind of building up that mental health toolbox. So when the storm does come, the hammer's there, the fucking, you know, the nail gun is there. You can batten up the windows. You can fucking protect yourself from it and stuff.
And you can sit there and just be like, this thing's going to pass. It's kind of cool. Wow, a storm.
It's not fun, but it's not fun. It's never going to be a nice situation. It's never going to be fun. But
you know what? I think, like, recently, what I've been really, and it sounds really like overly optimistic and stuff, but even though as honest as I am with how much these struggles are going to come into our life, it's allowing ourselves to go through the struggle, but not see it as that we're suffering or we're a victim to it. And I think that really comes down to changing your relationship with what this journey is all about. Because I think for a lot of people hearing this right now, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm going to be on this never-ending storming journey, and like, fucking, like, it sounds like you're just going to be going through misery throughout your whole life. Which is why I think I add so much humor to this whole thing, because I've learnt to just see this journey as just a journey of growth and evolution. Like, that's how I see it now. I see that when discomfort arises in my life, it's like, fuck, all right, what am I going to learn now?
But that's it. And you touched on it there, like that victim mentality. That is such there's no growth can happen in a victim mentality.
Mm.
You know, why is this happening to me? It's just one of those things you cannot let your brain go there, because it's going to stagnate you, and you're going to be stuck in that place.
And you know, I think even if it does go there,
it does.
Yeah, even if it does, which it may, you know, especially when something just triggers you and surfaces like, fuck, my whole life is just changing right now. Why the fuck is this happening now? Like, why do I need to learn this lesson again? Like, that is going to happen. Just allowing yourself to express that and then reframing it. Because what can happen is like, oh my God, fuck, I've just accessed the victim mentality. That means I'm going to stay here and be fucked forever. And then it just keeps lingering. Where it's like, okay, there's my victim self coming out. And he's like, Charles, man, why is this happening to me? And then you just go in there to give that part of you what they really need, which is some understanding. It's like, I get how you're seeing yourself as a victim now. I understand, bro. It's all good. You're like, I understand how you feel in this way. I validate your victim mentality and emotions that's associated with it. I get it. I see you. I hear you. Then that victim mentality is like, oh my God, thank you for hearing me and seeing me. Then you can begin to reframe what the whole situation means to you.
Yeah.
I think, you know, all these parts of us are going to come up and resurface at times. And I think, you know, the more awareness we gain, the more we practice this stuff, it really like speeds up how much we can process like stresses and these little experiences that occur, or we have like such a greater stress threshold. Like the stuff that I'm stressing out about now, bro, 5-10 years ago, if I was going through it back then, it would have fucking destroyed my whole reality. I'm like, I can't do anything.
It's kind of that exposure therapy as well, of opening yourself up to dealing with it instead of pushing it away, which you can do kind of without even knowing. You can do it just because you don't have the awareness of how to solve it.
Yeah. And pushing it away becomes the way to cope.
Yeah.
Just forget about it. That's why a lot of people don't remember their childhood.
Yeah.
It's just like forget all the memories there.
Yeah.
It's too much. Just push it away.
Man, it's funny. Like even sitting down having this conversation with you, the last couple of months for me have been some of the like very tough months emotionally. I had a lot of emotion and stuff buried, to the point where I was being fucking so fake with who I was and what was going on. I knew that the fucking storm was coming, so I was like, we'll get ahead of this, and I fucking threw as much positivity as I fucking could at it, and I like literally shoved it all down, to the point where I was like so fake, got so lost in myself of who I was, what I was doing. I started to promote this fucking positive fucking side of myself, and it spilled onto fucking social media as well. When I was going through a time when, you know, things weren't fucking great.
Yep.
And people are looking at it like, what the fuck's going on with this guy? Like, I could load of friends, a lot of people muted me, and I'm like, fucking good on you. I would have muted myself too. But it's like, to be able to sit down and have this conversation, it's a funny one, because I wouldn't have allowed myself to do it. Let's say a while ago, because I would have felt like, oh mate, you don't fucking know what you're talking about. You don't have your shit together. Look, look what happened fucking 2 couple of weeks ago. You can't fucking talk about this shit.
Yes.
But it's like you get stuck in that storm, and you know, we all have these different voices in our head. The way my auntie's a counsellor, and the way she explained it to me is, you know, we've got all these different parts of our personality, and each one of them has a microphone, and each one gets fucking time on the stage. But you know, when you're going through that storm, and the negative one and the victim one gets up, he's on the stage for a little bit too long. You know, you can get caught up in it, but you get to the point, you listen to it, like you said, you know, reassure it, and then you can get your, you know, kind of your more positive, more confident self back up on the stage and all that. So yeah, it's mad just to be able to let the emotions fucking go where they want. And now going through all it, I it's the most kind of mentally clear I've been in a long time, which is nice. But you almost feel like you're a bit of an imposter. You're like, man, a couple of weeks ago you didn't have a fucking clue what was fucking going on. You're sitting down here now on a podcast and fucking, you know, talking about all this fucking shit as if you're, you know.
I hear you, bro. It's the same shit with this whole, like, what I do, bro. Like, you know, I've got stuff that I'm working on right now too, you know, and but it's okay, because I'm a fucking human, and I'm not meant to be Mr. Perfect before I can help people, because people need to get helped.
Yeah.
and helping people is helping me. And I'm not going to hold myself back from doing that, all because I'm expecting myself to be Mr. fucking perfect and have all this shit together before I can do that. All that is procrastination and perfectionism.
Yeah.
That's all that is. That's just me getting in my own way, creating this false fucking story that, oh no, you can't actually talk about mental health unless your brain is perfectly fucking set and every neural pathway is set in the perfect order of you have a great brain. No. That's not how it has to be. I'm on this journey and I'm sharing what it's like. And yeah, I'm turning 31 this month. And I know in 5 years' time, I'll look back at the content that I make now and probably be like, it's kind of there. You're doing good. You know, you're just doing the best that you knew how to do back then. But I'm fucking okay with that, because I know that what I'm doing now is going to lead me to where I'm going to be in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
And when I'm 90 years old, I want to look back at when I'm 80 years old and be like, you were cute. You were cute back then, 80 years old, thinking that you knew, what was going on here and there. But when I'm 90, I want to be like, fuck, I've learned so much more. Yeah. I just want to continue to evolve and grow. And I'm just allowing myself to go through this process as imperfect as it is.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be this perfect process and you must be enlightened and full proper mental health. No. I've just let go of that, let go of that perfectionism. And I think a lot of people hold themselves back with anything they want to do with that.
Yeah.
People that want to become a personal trainer, start their own business. It's like, yeah, that part of you is going to come out who's doubting you, believes that you're an imposter and you don't deserve it. And you're going to get caught out and everyone's going to know. And then they're all going to judge you and they're not going to accept you. And then you're going to get outcast and abandoned by the tribe, because it's like, you actually are not good for mental health practices.
Yeah.
I let that part of me come out sometimes, like before I do the talk, before I hop on a podcast. Sometimes it comes out.
Yeah.
Sometimes it never comes out. Sometimes it does come out. I'm like, oh, that's a cute thought. Thank you for showing up for me. Thank you for being there just to look out for me. There may come a time where I'm really going to need you.
Yeah.
But now's not the time.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. I've got love for you. And that part of me is like, thanks for giving me that love. That's all I really needed. Just freaking out.
Yeah. All right, I'm just going to go backstage now, but I'll be back out again soon.
I'll be back.
Yeah.
When the FBI starts knocking on your door, I'll take over.
Yeah.
Charles, it turns out that you were starting a cult and you've gotten them to become your sex slaves, and this isn't right.
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. I was just being so authentic and started idolizing me.
Oh, mate. For anyone listening that might be struggling, might be stuck in that rut, might be in that place where they find it very hard to get out of the negative cycle. What I suppose, what would you what would you offer them in point of advice, or just I suppose education in those first steps, and what you can do just to try and get yourself back on track?
Good question.
I know it's a loaded one there again.
Yeah, that's all right. I think
I do just like to ask, because the reason I did start this podcast was to give people that mental kind of, so they could take something away from it. And I'm sure they're going to take loads from it. But I always just like to ask at the end, kind of what your kind of top stuff is, even for yourself and your own experiences. All
right. Well, there is something that I would like to add to everyone's awareness, and what it is that whatever you are struggling with right now, identify what it is, get clear with what that struggle is. How is that struggle being manifested out on the surface of your life? Is it something with money, work, relationship, just how you perceive your body, or you socially, your status, whatever it is? Just get clear with what exactly that biggest struggle is that you're going through right now. And then just get out of your logical mind, get out of your rational mind, and just seek to deeply understand why you are struggling with it. Don't judge yourself for it. Don't criticize yourself for struggling with it. Don't try and fix yourself. Don't try and change how you're struggling with it. Just let go of all that and just seek to compassionately inquire into it and understand it. Just like I want you to visualize when you do this, like a vulnerable, younger version of you approaching you, and they're coming up to you and they're like, I'm struggling with something. Your first question is going to be, what are you struggling with? You're going to get clear with them with what they're struggling with. I'm struggling because at school I didn't get good marks on my exam and people laughed at me. Okay. In that moment, what so many people do within themselves is this cold, rational, logical, judgmental part of them comes out and be like, you shouldn't be upset about that. Like, big deal you got low marks in that one exam. Try harder next time. Don't worry about what other people think about you. Very logical answers. In that moment, the child is not being validated. You shouldn't be upset about that. What does that show? What I'm feeling right now isn't valid. What I'm feeling right now is wrong. I shouldn't be feeling this. All of a sudden, expectation that what I'm feeling right now should not be felt. You start rejecting your pain in that moment. Your perspective of how you've seen what happened there becomes invalid. You're invalidating your own reality. That's stressful. You're adding more stress. You're adding more fuel to the fire like that.
Conflict, that internal conflict is just getting fired up again.
You're enhancing the experience. So just seek to understand it. Be like, oh yeah, I get how if you're in a room with 20 people and some of them start laughing at you because they found out how much marks you got, can be upsetting. I get that. That makes sense. Straight away, you're validating the experience. Give that to yourself. Just seek to understand and validate what you're going through. And I know it can be hard because it's like, oh, but then I'm making it okay that I'm upsetting and I don't want to be upset anymore and I don't want to struggle. But what that logic behind it isn't true, because when you validate what you're going through, that is calming. That's soothing. You feel connected. You feel like, okay, you feel connected with yourself in that moment. Same way you'd feel connected with someone else if they gave that to you. They just understood you. You feel understood. We all just want to feel understood. Doesn't matter what anyone is going through. Everyone just wants to be understood. Let's say like the conflict with Israel and Palestine. Both of them, those two, like the narratives that are brewing, are completely invalidating each other's narrative and story and not understanding each other. They're just throwing back their own story. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. No one is being understood. It's frustrating. It creates a lot of internalized anger, and the dichotomy between you and them increases, more of an us versus them. So what do? Enemy. People become enemies to themselves because they don't seek to understand themselves on a deeper level and give themselves that validation and compassion. So that's the biggest thing I would encourage everyone to do. Whatever you got triggered, doesn't matter how small and fucking stupid it is. Just understand it. Understand the surface of it. Because that is the gateway into understanding it on a deeper level. And when you understand on a deeper level, that's when you'll be able to understand how whatever you're going through right now on the surface of your life may be linked to deeper things that happened in your past. And when you have that much understanding, it's so much easier to give yourself compassion for it. It's like, fuck, I get it. I get why that breakup was so painful. I get why, I'm stressed out over money right now. I get it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I understand myself. And then from there, once you got that deeper understanding, because that's one part, that's going to take you into the next phase, which is changing your perspective on your past. It's never too late to have a good childhood.
Yeah. And would you write that down?
You can write it down, yeah. I'd say, journaling's great. Write it down, what you're struggling with, why you're struggling with it. Read it and just understand it.
Yeah.
Great practice there.
Awesome. Right, brother. This has been a fucking great conversation. I've really fucking enjoyed this podcast now. Thanks a million for taking me into your safe space with your fucking lovely doggo here. Keeping me warm. As soon as he moved off me, I was like, get off. But when he jumped off, I'm like, mate, I'm cold. Come back over here.
Anxious avoidant attachment style.
I want him now. No, thanks a million, mate. It was an absolute pleasure to have you come and do our first event with us. I genuinely don't think we could have got someone. I don't think we could have got anyone better to come in for our first one. And
Thanks, bro.
And to run through your stuff with the guys. Everyone got so much out of it. So thanks a million.
You're welcome, bro. My pleasure. Had a great time.
Yeah, we'll looking forward to the next one.
Yeah.
Maybe we might do another podcast after the next one.
Yeah, all right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'll be excited for that.
All right, my man. Thanks a million.
You're welcome, bro.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please tell a mate, share on social media, and help us get the word out there. It's all about living a happy and healthier lifestyle, getting into a good headspace so you can find your SMIRK.